we Europeans are so happy that Armenia wants to move to the EU, and we will do all what we can to bring them in. Even until today, the awareness in the West is limited of what happened in Armenia last week. A game of chess where we say to the Russians, there we are, Russia, there we are, Kremlin, encircle Russia with countries which are befriended with Europe.
Welcome to Caucasian Journal video interviews. Our guest today is Karel LANNOO, head of the Center of European Policy Studies, CEPS, in Brussels, one of Europe's most influential think tanks. He has recently returned from Yerevan, Armenia, where he attended the EU-Armenia Summit and the Yerevan Dialogue, a remarkable set of high-level events which put Armenia at the center of European geopolitics. I could not agree more with you when you observed that EU-Armenia developments are a strategic necessity that deserves far more coverage in European media. So thank you so much for making time for this conversation.
Pleasure.
Shall we start with your on-the-ground impressions? Was this your first visit to Armenia or to South Caucasus? And what, if anything, surprised you the most?
It was my first visit to Armenia. Also, Georgia I've not been. Of course, I've been in Turkey, which is one side of the Caucasus, but only the western side, not the eastern side. But it was really remarkable to be there, remarkable to discover, for me, certainly in Armenia, a country which I think, the way it appeared to me, is more European than I thought. Of course, Armenia still is, to a large degree, probably until today, the way, if you look at it, a bit trying to get rid of this old Soviet-style republic, which it was for so many years, and trying to get out of this, certainly after the wars with Azerbaijan and after the lessons it learned from that. And that is, I think, the most important things which Europeans need to realize. There is a region out there which also historically is close to Europe, but which Europeans do not realize to be basically a European region. That is probably also to a large degree the case for Georgia and probably for some, regions in the neighborhood. But I think, for example, once you go to Azerbaijan, you will realize you're in another region. Whereas Armenia, because of its culture, its traditions, its history, is much closer to Europe. Once we are in Azerbaijan, I think we would say we are in the Gulf or in the Middle East or somewhere moving towards Central Asia. And that's what I think was for me the most surprising thing. Of course, even if I knew and had been following Armenian politics, once you're there, you realize, look, this is a country which certainly now, after what has happened over the last 5-6 years, really looks to Europe as its place to be. And the Europeans should be aware of that. But it's also an opportunity for Europe because of our geopolitical challenges which we have, that we can, in this sense, demonstrate our clout, demonstrate our geopolitical strength, and try to, difficult to say, but to some degree, encircle Russia with countries which are befriended with Europe. And we should be aware that the intention of the European political community, when it was started, I think 3 or 4 years ago, by the French, mostly by President Macron, that the intention was to bring together democratic countries. Of course, I know Azerbaijan is in there as well, but democratic countries which have a common views or a common shared objectives towards supporting European values, which is open societies, which is democracy, which is rule of law. And that's what we as Europeans, in this sense, need to realize. And that's why I think this EPC summit in Armenia was very, very useful. But that's also what My surprise was because when I heard it until a few weeks before the summit, I had the idea that, oh, this will not take place because of the problems in Iran, because of the problems with the flights and so on. But apparently the agenda was set. It was in heads of states and government, diaries. They were there and they wanted to show this commitment while being in Armenia. But I think even until today, the awareness in the West is limited of what happened in Armenia last week, but also the awareness in the West of how important it is has not changed so much. Also because the media coverage of this event was very limited. So it still seemed to be so kind of a distraction probably in the European context that we had this leaders meeting in Armenia or in Yerevan last week. But many Europeans have still not realized how important it is, let's say, that we're also active in that region and that we show that we are there as we wanted to with these 46 nations to show our support for these common values, these common principles, these common functioning of societies.
Well, I hope that we are contributing to this media coverage during, this interview too, because
Yes.
Absolutely, as I said, I can't agree more with you that the media coverage is vastly insufficient, and even within the expert community, the awareness of our region is unfortunately rather low. Do you think that on the European side, are we witnessing a real, genuine, durable reorientation of Europe's eastern boundary, or is this a fleeting moment driven by the war in Ukraine and the unpredictable transatlantic relationship? Do you have a feeling that the current momentum involving our region is likely to be sustained? Of course, much will depend on Armenia and Georgia themselves, but from your Brussels perspective, do you sense there is sufficient long-term political interest from the European side?
It's difficult to say whether there is a long-term interest, but I think certainly because of the war in Ukraine, Europe's geopolitical aspirations have changed, and the awareness amongst the European public that we have to take on our geopolitical responsibilities is there. Of course, it's not only because of the war in Ukraine, it's also because of the Americans and the Trump administration, which have said we will withdraw our troops. And we, Europe, should become mature and a kind of an adult group of nations to say we will take on fully our security challenges ourselves. And even yesterday, or was it this morning, that the Trump administration said we will withdraw 4,000 or 5,000 troops also from Poland, not only from, or we will not reallocate the troops which we're going to reallocate from Germany to Poland. We will not put them there. We will relocate them to another region. That Europeans need to realize it is a bit ridiculous that we still have until today 80,000 American troops. I mean, being here, paid for by the Americans to care for our security, that we have as Europeans to care for our security ourselves. And from that perspective, we need to be fully supporting Ukraine, what we're doing, at least that's what the European Commission is doing. But once we look a bit further, if we have the opportunity of countries like certainly Armenia, which want to be clearly part of this European drive, we should support these countries and say, look, it is part of our geopolitical role to be active in the region and to also see that this is an opportunity to have a country, even a small country, which is there, but which is fully oriented to Europe and which supports European ambitions to be part of the European community.
I would think to ask you about this proposed European trajectory of Armenia, which I guess was discussed at the Yerevan meetings a lot, probably. How realistic do you consider this Armenia long-term accession trajectory? Because looking at the map, of course, there might be some skepticism about its potential, in joining European Union. Do you hear any indications, being in Brussels, that European Union could realistically can take up such a candidate with such a complexity as Armenia? Or maybe there's a risk that Yerevan is being offered symbolism where it needs a substance?
If we are very strategic, I mean, it is a fantastic move because it's a kind of a move on a game of chess where we say to the Russians, ah, there we are, Russia, there we are, Kremlin. And we see that this country, which may be a small country, but is kind of strategically very important, politically very important, economically has also so important, that this country clearly wants to move to Europe. Hence, we Europeans are so happy that Armenia wants to move to the EU, and we will do all what we can to bring them in. Of course, this process can be long, but what the EU-Armenia summit has promised already, financial means, not unimportant, 250 million, but also opening a gateway for a lot of investments by Europe into Armenia, because we need to diversify our supply chains. And if we can have a link towards Eurasia, towards Central Asia, through this association with Armenia, it is extremely important, let's say, that we can get gas, we can get oil from much further away. And that the role Armenia can play to bring this as a hub, to bring these links towards Europe. So I would say it's a fantastic opportunity, and that's why probably this will only be the beginning to explain to Europeans what opportunity we have there, but that's how it should be done. And not thinking, no, this will be a burden, this will be a cost. I think it's much more an opportunity. It's much more an enormous, challenge, but also a facility. If we have a link towards supplies for fossil fuels from that region, that is enormous, because we all know, let's say, how dangerous is this big dependence which we have today from the Strait of Hormuz. And that's why, of course, we also know, let's say, we will continue to be dependent on fossil fuels, but that region has plenty of fossil fuels. And if Armenia can play the role in bringing these fuels in an easier way to Europe, not relying on transfers through Russia or to Georgia, that is a big advantage.
I'm glad we have already started talking about the business side, because I know you have been a very prominent expert also in the financial and business issues. So I especially value your opinion, as the connectivity is the buzzword of the moment, and it has been heard a lot from Yerevan also, with the United States investment in the TRIP route and Turkey's railway projects, and the EU committing 2.5 billion euros to regional infrastructure. The map might be changing, but how do you assess the geopolitical reliability of those routes? Because completing the route requires cooperation from not only Armenia, but also Azerbaijan, Turkey, and Georgia. And each of those countries is navigating a complicated relationship with both Russia and the West. So for a commercial project, for a commercial corridor, can it survive such a complexity?
I know it's a complexity, but I think we have for supply chains, for commercial corridors, certainly for fuels, we have this since a very long time. I mean, if we go back into history, 100 years or 150 years, we see why were the British so active in many regions all around the world. It's just to supply, to guarantee the supply chains for oil at that time, probably to a much larger degree in the total energy mix than today. But it's the same until today. But if you see what is already supplied through Azerbaijan today, and the way it gets here, if we can further diversify these lines, I think this is a big opportunity for Armenia, and Armenia has seen it. And Armenia is somewhere, it's landlocked from the one perspective. From the other side, it has this strategic position that it brings, this eventually gas and oil from the east to the west. And if these supply lanes can be facilitated, then we make, I think, Armenia, we make a big step forward. It's a further, way by which we can reduce reliance on a few other supply lanes, but also it's an enormous opportunity for more revenues. For that region, for Armenia as a transit hub, but also for Europe to eventually have a more diversified resources.
I would like to thank you very much for your contribution, which is very valuable, and especially for your interest to our region.
Thank you very much for your interest and for this interview. For me, it's an opportunity, Alexander, to understand the region better and to continue to be informed. If they invite me next year to Yerevan, I will go, and my friend who's living there will be very happy that we will meet each other again. And probably it will be an opportunity to meet you if I go to Georgia at some stage.
Looking forward to it.
I will certainly do. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
We cover what matters. Caucasian Journal.